Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you hear any noise in the background, remember I do have two doggies. One of them's still a baby right now, so she can be a little bit noisy sometimes, but that's just Dawn for you. Also, please subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. Share if you can, and also if you can hit the like button. It's completely free and it really helps. So, let's get into our Singapore ghost stories, true ghost stories, part 2. This story is called Woman in Red, and it is from someone called X-Ray. During the first few weeks of the COVID pandemic, I got into a freak accident while walking down the stairs. Since then, I wasn't able to go out much. While being a homebody, I kept myself busy by watching movies or video streaming services using Google Map features. I used to be a constant traveller, so using the Google Map provided me the fascination of seeing the world online. I would virtually walk through the streets anywhere in the world, and it felt like I was really there. My laptop had become my, constant companion. I got hooked with the Google Map feature. It makes me a virtual traveller. I virtually travelled my favourite spots in China, Japan, England and France. I also got the chance to see new places like the great Reed and Dracula's castle. Dracula, let's say. I got a new favourite pastime by going to random cities all over the world, seeing people and animals. I enjoyed seeing the world as it used to be again, though the faces of people were blurred out due to privacy protection policy, of course. I still got the joy of seeing people enjoying life during the pandemic, browsing the walkthrough at the Google Map. I noticed a woman in all red attire. I zoomed in closer. She was casually walking in a relaxed manner, a one hand trailing the wall beside her. Though her face was blurred, I could clearly see that she was staring directly towards me. I saw her smile widen. I began to feel depressed, sitting on my wheelchair. I started to imagine myself walking down the road. At that moment, would have been impossible. I was stuck in a wheelchair with my leg injury. I sighted and zoomed out of Tokyo. I think I will call this a night. So I shut down my laptop and I went to bed. The next day, I woke up early, turned on my laptop and decided to browse around Paris. I missed Paris. A few years ago, I was there with my mum before she passed away. I always loved the old architecture of Paris, the Eiffel Tower, and the shops around. I clicked randomly around Paris and zoomed to an old street, lined with building with bricks, finished on its facade. There were small shops nearby and an old church. Looking ahead, there was an intersection, and a few people were passing by. I pan and tilt the view around the area just a few more times, when I suddenly spotted someone familiar. It was the woman in red. I thought this must be a coincidence. It can't be the same woman I just saw in Tokyo last night. This couldn't be her. There's no way she can be in two places in that amount of time. I got hold of myself, and I just said to myself, she must be just some random person. Besides, I wasn't able to see her face, so it would be impossible to jump to a conclusion to verify that she was the same person. I just assured myself that there could be a million people who could also wear the same red clothes. I shook my head and went to my small kitchen to fix myself some lunch. When I got back online, I decided to look at Berlin. I started my online tour by clicking on random streets around the area. The street I picked was empty. There were some old buildings lined along the street. The ambience looked sort of like a factory or a manufacturing zone. There were empty lots, covered with tall grass and piled gravel and sand. The spot I randomly chose was not a tourist spot, and nothing to see would be pleasing. As I was leaving the spot, something caught my eye. I zoomed the camera to the spot that caught my eye, and standing near a parked motorcycle and an old signpost was the woman in red, and she was looking back at the camera, standing straight and pointing towards my direction. I was shocked. This must be more than a coincidence. How can another woman in red be there? The spot is not a tourist spot. Have I gone mad? Has this isolation driven me to lose my mind? Or I just started seeing things? I started to Google search about the woman in red, popping out in Google Maps. But there were no articles on this strange occurrence in Google Maps. I then decided to leave the Berlin image on my laptop screen. I switched to Sydney. I saw her again. She was leaning against a wall. She can be spotted from the glass door. She was inside the Carrots Pharmacy building. In London, I spotted her standing on the top of a red double-decker bus, her head slightly turned and looking over her shoulder towards my direction. She seems to appear in all countries, any I search on Google Maps. I clenched my fist tightly and closed my eyes. Who was this woman? How can she be everywhere? I wish I could see her face. I wanted to stand up and run. How can I still be confined due to my broken legs? I decided to type Singapore and type Jurong, and then type the apartment complex that I lived. And my apartment building pops out. I could see the outside of my building and my window. The playground outside was empty. I started panning the camera, trying to look for the woman in red. Good thing she wasn't anywhere. She wasn't there. I scanned everywhere. Parked cars, behind the bushes, the blurred apartment windows. She wasn't there. I breathed lightly and relaxed myself. I told myself, thank God, my apartment was safe. I would not use Google Maps for a while. The experience was very creepy. I don't want to see the woman in red ever again. I smiled and shed a tear. I whispered, I am safe. As I was comforting myself, there was a sudden knock at my main door. There were 3 loud bangs, and a chill ran down my spine. I have a CCTV camera on top of my door that can be viewed remotely on my smartphone. I turned on the app for the CCTV camera to see who was outside the door. As I looked at my phone, I got terrified and almost dropped my phone. I can clearly see the face of the woman in red. She was looking directly on the camera. Her head was shaking violently, making her face sort of unregistered in the CCTV camera. It was like a motion blur. I was about to scream, but then she was suddenly in front of me. So now, I'm face to face with this woman in red. And it keeps happening. That's interesting. The next is called Reoccurring Nightmare. The story I'm about to share happened 3 years ago, and I was only 18 at the time. I had this reoccurring nightmare. In it, I was trick-or-treating. It was Halloween night. I was in this overgrown wooded area in my neighbourhood. While I was walking towards the wooded area, I realised that there were 2 ghosts chasing after me. They were what seems to be a newly-wedded couple in their traditional wedding outfit. I clearly saw they were hovering towards me. I always woke up when they were about to get hold of me. It was Ghost Month that day when I woke up from the reoccurring nightmare. I can't sleep that night. And I don't know what come to me. I took a selfie of myself and, well, I captured something. You can clearly see there were 2 entities on my back. They were standing behind me. And there is a picture that you'll be able to see. Tell me what you think of that, guys. The next is called Frightmare. I'm going to share a creepy experience I had 5 years ago. I just moved into my new flat. So my room is facing an old cemetery, but since I'm not really superstitious, I didn't actually mind it. That night before going to sleep, I could hear growling somewhere outside, kind of like an angry dog. I ignored it, obviously, and I fell asleep. After an hour or so, I woke up feeling this pressure all over my body. It pushed me into the bed, and I held my breath. My eyes were wide shut. I gritted my teeth and tried to relax my breathing. I thought this might just be a bad dream, but it didn't stop there. I felt hairy fingers touched my breast and a rough hand was tightly holding my left arm. These fingers touched my body and trailed along my waist, and then it continued. I felt this crushing pain on my stomach and what I thought to be large lips. Yes, large lips, kissing and biting my stomach. I felt excruciating pain as I felt a finger with a sharp claw scratch my body and thigh. I then felt, well, what I thought to be a long tongue. It felt like if it was a cinder or something. I tried to scream, but no voice came out of my mouth. I was being tortured by large teeth, biting my body. I could feel my flesh being torn apart forcefully. Then I heard a whisper, "Don't fight back." I apparently refused the demand and uncontrollably began convulsing on the bed. I tossed and turned, and the pressure worsened, enveloping me head to toe. I choked on nothing, and my throat stung awfully. This thing was awful. It started to just be all over me, and the tongue licked the back of my neck. I was sweating all over. I could feel this thing on me. It was awful. After that, of course, it suddenly stopped. I was sweating all over my body. My bedsheet was all wet from the sweat. I finally woke up from the nightmare, but the problem was, it felt so real, and I was so drained. I actually started crying. In fact, I cried myself to sleep. The next morning when I wake up, obviously I figured it was nothing more than a nightmare I experienced, though it felt surreal. I found my body, though. My whole body had scratch and bite marks. I don't know what that thing is. I'll send you a photo of the scratches and the bite marks. Maybe some of your listeners will have encountered this thing. Please help me. I have myself checked into OB-GYN, but she told me everything was fine, and there is no way that something could have happened to me like that. But how about the marks that I sustained? The doctor, well, she just injected me with anti-rabies. So she figured it might have been a dog. And there is a picture, but obviously I can't show you that picture, I'm afraid, because her body is naked. I can maybe try and blur it out and show you. I'll think about that, okay? Mystic truth. So if you can still remember your dream after you wake, it wasn't a dream, it was a message. When a man truly loves a woman, she becomes his weakness. When a woman truly loves a man, he becomes her strength. And this is called an exchange of power. If one door closes, another door opens. Your house is haunted. If you can see 3 dark shadows in front of your bed, apparently the myth is that you are about to die. Chinese lunar calendar method of choosing the sex of your baby. So, according to the ancient Chinese masters, the female egg can attract male sperm at a certain part of ovulation cycle and female sperm during other portions. Being able to choose the gender of your baby is useful for so many reasons. The method that I'm going to share with you is taken from a royal tomb near Peking, China, about 700 years ago. The actual chart is proven to be 99% accurate. To use this chart, the woman needs to find a Chinese age, and then see down the chart to see the month of conception. Since Chinese take you to be 1 year old, when you are born, you just need to add 1 year to your present age. B stands for boy, and G, obviously, stands for girl. Nobody owns this method, so you don't need to pay to use it or anything. So basically, there is a picture of the method. I'll see what I can do to show you guys. But it's not a method I'm familiar with. It's interesting though. The power of a lingam. Lingams are meteorites which fell from the heavens into the Narmada River in central India. These are the true lingams and can only be found in India. The lingams are the colour black. But there are also lingams that come in various other colours. The beautiful markings on each lingam are very unique. These markings are said to have been formed by composites of the meteorites with the earth elements in the river millions of years ago. The rarest ones are the black lingams, which are pure meteorite elements. The lingams can be further differentiated by separating them into two groups. The yin is called the yoni and the yang is called the lingam. The yin-yang combination is usually found in Hindu temples and represents the cosmic power of heaven and earth. I have a lingam, actually. I think it's in one of my cabins outside, and it's in a little case. It's a black one. It's in a little case, in a glass case. Never had it out or anything. It's just there. But choosing your lingam. Always choose a lingam with a well-balanced shape. There are different colours in lingams. Each type is unique, and they have their own personality. Hold a small lingam in your hand and clasp it lightly. Relax, feel its vibration. If you feel it, it's meant for you. Lingams are cool to touch. It would soothe you and calm you, making you feel more refreshed. Sometimes static energy can be felt by touching a few small lingams together. This is quite common, and there's nothing to feel alarmed about, by the way. Each lingam has its own distinct vibrations, so choose one that has the affinity to you. And obviously, that's kind of like crystals, you know. When we have crystals and such, we tend to want to feel their vibrations to know when they're coming from, and etc. etc. And I guess that's what I do with my crystals. I tend to search for a vibration or see one that jumps out to me anyway. And the lingams are the same, you know, they're the same as that. So the next one is called the entity. My friend was on Skype with her sister while they were on vacation in Malaysia. As her sister took her on a tour of their spacious rent house, my friend caught sight of something on the ceiling beams and pointed it out to her sister. But she couldn't see anything odd and ignored my friend. Not wanting to scare her sister, my friend just kept it to herself. It was only when they got back to Singapore that my friend explained that she had seen a creepy dark figure on the beams overlooking the family room. Even stranger, her sister said she was disturbed every night by a creepy figure that was on top of her. She told her that the figure was touching her private parts. She even told her that while they were at the scenic waterfalls with their friends, a black figure was following them. She shared some photos she took in the waterfalls area. It is only when they were back in Singapore that they saw the figure that photobombed their picture. The Phantom Menace. When I was 7 years old, we lived in an apartment building in Tampines. My parents were irresponsible gamblers. One of the many nights, they would just leave us kids in the apartment, alone sleeping. I woke up one night, sitting on a bed in the living room, and looked around to see where my parents went. I noticed that all my siblings were sleeping next to me, and the only light illuminating the area was the kitchen, an incandescent light. I looked straight ahead, and I saw a tall figure by the bathroom door. This was stooped down. It had long black hair reaching its feet, fiery red eyes looking straight, and a deformed face with fangs as its teeth, and a hand that resembles the claws of an eagle. The figure knew I was staring at her. It crawled towards my direction, slowly, and I was so terrified. I dove underneath my blanket covers for around 7 minutes. It then slowly peeked out to see. I then slowly peeked out to see if it was still there. It was still there, and I was face to face with it. It was on top of me, staring at me with a sinister grin. I got scared. I hid under the blanket once again, and I stayed there until I fell asleep, not daring to look. Ooh, that's kind of creepy, isn't it? The doppelganger. My partner usually leaves for work at 6 a.m. One stormy August, I woke up at 7 a.m. and realised he was still in bed. After showering, I checked on him, but saw he was no longer there. I telephoned the guard on the ground floor and asked if my partner had left the building. The guard answered that he had already left at around 6 a.m. in the morning. I got goosebumps all over me. I quickly called him on the phone while I was in the bathroom, and he confirmed he left at 6 a.m. Being not a superstitious person, I thought, well, my eyes must have been playing tricks on me. I then put my phone on the stand beside the bathroom and proceeded with cleaning myself up. When I finished taking a bath, I was about to get my phone, and I was shocked to see a photo of me and a black figure or some kind of shadow. After that incident, we moved out of that apartment immediately. And, well, that incident still creeps me out to this day. The next is called Shutter. It was my last day at work, so I and my colleagues huddled together for a Polaroid shot. But what we saw had us completely frozen. There were three of us, and as the photo slowly developed, we noticed an entity. A face peeking around my colleague's shoulder. I got so traumatized that I became unconscious. It takes time before I calm down. Ever since I developed a phobia of taking Polaroid photos, it still haunts me to this day, and I will not take them again. Elevator ghost ride. It was Ghost Month, and I was walking past an altar. I briefly wondered why it had an offering of Yakult, toys and biscuits. Then I remembered these offerings were meant to appease spirits. That afternoon, a boy was trailing behind me as I was walking home. "Help me," he repeated in a faint voice. I replied, "I can't help you. I don't know what you want. Please go on." He disappeared and I entered the elevator alone. Or so I thought. As the lift began to ascend, a ghostly face started to stare at me through the reflection on the glass. It looked normal, except one thing. It was ethereal. When the elevator door opened, I hurriedly ran to my apartment. The boy chased me, but he just stopped at the door. He couldn't enter because I had Feng Shui, Bagua mirror. It is a pentagon-shaped symbol to ward off negative spirits. Ghost Month. I was absolutely fascinated by the offerings around Telok Ayer during my first Hungry Ghost Festival in Singapore. Not knowing what can't be done during Ghost Month, like a total fool, I took photos of the offerings and I Instagrammed it. I even hashtagged it. Even worse, I did it at home late at night. Yes, when I was the only person awake. Out of nowhere, I heard the sound of little footsteps. They were coming from the back door and down the hallway. And, of course, there was absolutely nothing there. For months, the door of my apartment room would lock from the inside. I'd hear the sounds of toy trains and kids in the room at night, while everyone was asleep. Sometimes I'd feel as if there was a child by my side, but when I looked down expecting to see my toddler, nobody was there. I sometimes also feel as if someone was sitting on my bedside and watching me sleep. I decided to take a selfie of myself. And well, what I captured was very strange, to say the least. Night at the museum. At the museum where I used to work, there was a small space in one of the exhibition rooms. It was always pitch dark, but had a small table with office chairs for us to chill. My colleagues and I sat around the table one evening, and I was so engrossed with my phone I didn't realize they'd left. A few minutes later, I heard an office chair rolling. It was as though someone got off the chair. I looked up and saw the table starting to levitate. Yeah, about a meter. I bolted out. flight instinct took in. The worst part, I left my phone charger in the room and had to go back to retrieve it. When I tried to retrieve it, I saw a ghostly figure staring back at me. It was holding my charger. I ran out, dropped my phone. The next day, I resigned from my job. Would you do that, guys, if it happened to you? Would you resign or would you carry on? The next story is eerie. This happened to a few members of my family. We were on a staycation at a resort in Sentosa, and it was late at night. Almost everyone was asleep except for me. When I popped by the pantry to get a glass of water, I looked at the floor and saw a strange sight. It was a ghostly apparition of a woman wearing a long red gown. She was staring in my direction. In a blink of an eye, she evaporated in front of me. The weird thing is that there were strands of her hair on the wall. I had to take a photo of it. The next morning, I told this experience to my family, but the hair was no longer there. I'm 100% sure of what I saw that night. And to me, I have proof in the picture. The next is dirty feet. I came home late one night, and I was very tired and didn't wash my feet before I went to sleep. That night, something disturbed my sleep. I felt a weight on my body, and as I opened my eyes, I saw this ethereal figure with long hair sitting on my body and staring at me. It had glowing, fiery eyes. The next morning, I said to myself that it might just be a nightmare, but I wasn't sure. In a Malay household, it's believed if you don't wash your feet when you get inside your house, you're inviting bad spirits into your home. So I could have just done that. The next is called The Haunting. Woodlands is known for its haunted HDB building, Block 852, which was once empty for the longest time. Years ago, my cousin moved to the neighbourhood and unknowingly stayed near the haunted block. Things soon took a weird turn. The television would switch on and off without warning, but the family brushed it off. During the first night of the 7th month, Ghost Month, she was sleeping alone in her room when she woke up in the middle of the night after hearing a weird noise. She saw a ghostly figure with extremely long hair and reptilian eyes, spinning with the ceiling fan and staring down at her. She tried to shout for help, but no sound came out of her mouth. Feeling helpless, she started praying, and she could hear someone else praying. The ghost finally sat on top of her. When she opened her eyes, she was face to face with the ghost. The eyes were reptilian. It had like a devilish grin. The next day, she moved out. The next is called The Wraith. So my experience happened in 2015. I returned home around 7 p.m. and saw a cat outside the car park. The cat approached me and I petted it. I then continued heading home. Throughout the walk, a rancid pungent carcass odour just stuck with me. I thought maybe it was just garbage, so I didn't think too much about it. Since the smell disappeared, when I had already got to my room, I just thought, yep, garbage. Morning comes when my father told me I brought home some dark entity because it was sat on his bed and just staring at him with fiery red eyes till dawn. My dad said the cat followed me home was protecting me from the dark entity. My dad told me that all cats have power. Every day they remove the negative energies that accumulate in our body as soon as we fall asleep. They absorb that energy. They also protect us during night so that no unwanted spirits can enter the house or harm us while we sleep. That's why the cat slept in his bed. The cat came for a reason unknown to us on a physical level, so the stray cat volunteered to help us. Well, he will come back one day or another to fulfill his obligation. We believe cats heal us. So Ghost Month is a big thing in Singapore, I guess. And here we have a list of what not to do in Ghost Month. Don't place your chopsticks vertically in a rice bowl. Hungry ghosts wandering around may mistake your chopsticks as joss stick offerings. So unless you want to attract their attention, don't do it. Don't hang your laundry to dry overnight. It's believed damp clothing is an invitation for wandering spirits to try them out and ultimately follow you into your house. Don't hang around large bodies of water. It's believed that water is portal to the underworld. It's the season for spirits to come out and prey on the living. So if you're feeling superstitious, don't swim during ghost month, you might get drowned. Don't photograph offerings. Cameras are said to trap lurking spirits. So if you want to avoid ghostly figures or extra people in your photos, keep that photo in your pocket. Don't snap photos of offerings, no matter how grand or Instagrammable they are. Not only is it rude, but you might also bring home unwanted company. Don't renovate your home. Hold off on making any changes to your home. That includes shifting furniture around and renovating your abode. It's believed this might disturb any residing spirits. Don't kill any moths or insects at all. So if you see any of the winged creatures crashing your home, nudge them out gently. They're probably just saying hello. They could even be a relative dropping by. Don't plan midnight activities outdoor. The souls of the dead are said to wander through the streets at night, so you best be tucked away safe at home after sunset. If you're really itching to head out, at least get a buddy to accompany you so that the ghosts won't involve you in their mischief. Don't go snooping around where you aren't supposed to. It's not something you should do anyway. Singapore is a safe country, but why tempt spirits during the most haunted season of the year? Don't sit in the front row at Get Eye performances. And don't wear red. Apparently it's attention grabbing. Hungry ghosts are believed to sort of be attracted by the red colour. Don't open umbrellas that are left to dry outside the house. And don't open umbrellas inside the house because there might be a ghost hiding inside it. Do not whistle at night, for it would attract the roaming spirits. Do not lean on walls, for the roaming spirits are known to stay in walls. So if you're leaning on a wall, you're essentially leaning on them. Do not talk to yourself during Ghost Month because the spirits might think you're talking to them. During Ghost Month, do not turn your back when somebody calls for you because it's believed that the ethereal flames that are supposed to protect you from evil spirits might be extinguished. Ghost Festival is held during the 7th month of the Chinese calendar. It usually falls in August, but it can also fall the same time as the full moon, the new season, the fall harvest, the peak of the Buddhist monastic things, the rebirth of ancestors, and the assembly of local community. During this month, the gates of hell are opened up, and ghosts are free to roam the earth, where they seek food and entertainment. So that's what Ghost Month's basically all about, apparently. And that's something new that I didn't know, and it's quite interesting. I might have to look into that a little bit more sometime. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry about my dog snoring in the background. She's really small, but she's just, snoring is like majorly loud. So loud. Anyway, thank you and many blessings.